Welcome back to this new inspirational video. Let me ask you something. Do you see your life as a great adventure? Even though you may have hardships, even though you have ups and downs in life, are you capable of seeing your life as a great adventure? Because that sort of mentality can really do wonders in our lives. It's something that I only actually learned about through Emmet Fox's work, and that is what I wanted to narrate for you today, so that you too can think about it in your own ways. But it's absolutely profound, because there are times that life isn't working out for us, and then considering it as an adventure, it's sort of like a confirmation to our own consciousness that we're also aware that this is part of a bigger journey. It's not a permanent effect or event that we're going to face, even though at times it may feel like it when we're in a dark place. We might feel hopeless and it somehow feels as if it's going to last forever, but seeing it as an adventure would instantly re-establish us to the point of view that, hey, this is part of a greater journey, and let me just make sure that I make the most of it and figure out the best solutions that I can take from them, where it becomes a lesson for the soul instead of staying stuck. So let's begin. Emmet wrote the following. Many people seem to have the impression that the sole object of metaphysical study is the overcoming of difficulties, but to suppose that is to lose all sense of proportion. The truth is to be sought for its own sake. The knowledge of truth is its own reward, and that reward is health, harmony, and prosperity to begin with. But this is only the beginning. The real object of the seeker should be the development of his or her own higher faculties and powers. In a word, their spiritual evolution. Now it so happens that as fast as one acquires spiritual understanding, their circumstances improve in every respect. Their health, their temper, their happiness, and their material surroundings rapidly and automatically change for the better. A want of true understanding automatically and necessarily expresses itself in some sort of difficulty on the physical plate, culminating in sin, sickness, and death. When people find themselves in any difficulty, should they have some glimmerings of spiritual truth, they realize, however dimly, that a way out is to be found along the path of spiritual enlightenment, and consequently they study books, consult friends in the movement, ask for treatment or guidance, or take whatever step appears to be appropriate at the moment. This is the natural and proper course to pursue. And provided they understand what it is that they are doing, it is only a matter of time before their difficulties, their ill health, poverty, trouble, whatever it is, must disappear. They are, in fact, seeking spiritual enlightenment. They are working for a change in consciousness, and one cannot seek for an improved consciousness without getting it, nor get it without making a demonstration. Misunderstanding and disappointment arise when people mistake the teaching for some kind of elaborate conjuring trick. When a person supposes that by a wave of the hand or the repetition of an incantation, their circumstances can be changed for the better without any corresponding change in their own mentality, they are doomed to disappointment. They have not come into truth, and the truth movement has nothing for them. During the past few years, a large number of people of all sorts have consulted me about their difficulties, and they easily divide themselves into those two groups. Some people, for instance, are in trouble owing to some very obvious defect in the character, but are quite unwilling to overcome this defect, or even, in many cases, to acknowledge it. They wish to continue in their mistake and to have prosperity or happiness as well. Needless to say, for them there is no relief until they have suffered a little more and have been punished sufficiently to make them do what is necessary. The man who drinks, for example, is certain to ruin his business, and you cannot help him as long as he prefers whiskey to prosperity. Of course, if he is trying to give up whiskey, you can help him to do so, and then all will be well, but otherwise he will just have to go on suffering until his lesson is learned. Other people complain that they have no friends, cannot keep servants, and that they live unhappy, isolated lives, and a few minutes' conversation makes it obvious that there is an atrociously bad temper there which has driven everyone away. If such people are prepared to work to change themselves, the road is clear, but until they are, there is very little to be done for them. Most of you who read this, however, will be seeking the truth in the right way. And to seek the truth in that spirit is really to have come into the truth. You would not have sought me had you not already found me. That being so, You should not allow yourself to be worried or depressed merely because the demonstration is delayed. If you have sufficient understanding to believe in treatment, you have sufficient understanding to know that it must be only a matter of time before you are out of the wood. And what does it really matter whether it is a little sooner or a little later? Any delay in getting results can only be due to one of two things. Either the mental cause of your difficulty is very deeply seated in your consciousness and is requiring a good deal of work, or else you are not yet working in the best way. And if this is so, again, it will only be a matter of time before you find what is the best way for you. In other words, once you are on the path, there is no hurry. Oh, but says someone, in my case there is the most urgent hurry, because unless I make my demonstration by Saturday, the verdict of the court will be given against me, or my creditors will foreclose, or I shall lose the boat, or what not. But the answer in truth is still, there is no hurry, for the gates of hell shall never prevail. Let evil do its worst on Saturday, let the court give its verdict, let the creditors strike their blow, let the boat sail. When Monday comes, prayer will still put everything right, if you can get your realization, and if not on Monday, then Wednesday or Friday or the week after. Time does not really matter, for prayer is creative, and will build the new Jerusalem for you anywhere and any time, irrespective of what may have happened, just as soon as you can get your realization of truth, omnipresent good, Emmanuel, which is God with you. This is the new Jerusalem, which comes down out of heaven, like a bride adorned for her husband, and is independent of any conditions on the physical plane. When you are in difficulties, look upon the overcoming of them as a great adventure. Resist the temptation to be tragic, to give way to self-pity or discouragement, and approach the problems as though you were an explorer seeking a path through darkest Africa, or an Edison working to overcome difficulties in connection with a new invention. You know that there is a way out of any difficulty whatever, no matter what it may be, through the changing of your own consciousness by prayer. You know that by thus raising your consciousness, any conceivable form of good that you can desire will be yours. And you know that nobody else can, by any means, hinder you from doing this when you really want to do it. Relatives, customers, employers, the government, bad times, so-called, nothing can hinder you from the rebuilding of your own consciousness. And this rebuilding is the great adventure. And that is what he had to say concerning this concept. Now there's one point, or actually a few points, that I wanted to expand upon. One of them was where he stated that the man who drinks, for example, is certain to ruin his business, and you cannot help him as long as he prefers whiskey to prosperity. It's very interesting that alcohol is such an accepted drug in our societies, and I made a video about this at the end of December, talking about an actual addiction that I have concerning alcohol. Right now, thankfully, I'm sober, but you see, that's the tricky part about addiction, is that it can always creep up on you. But of course, I know based on the teachings that we share that it all has to do with a state of consciousness for me as well. Every time in the past that I relapsed, it was because I consciously actually made a decision to go back to the drinking and to sort of say screw it to all the benefits of sobriety. And in that sense, what Emmet Fox wrote here actually hits home for me personally, and I know many others out there who are drinking. They might be still in a stubborn place not wanting to admit this, but I know that in my case it did ruin part of my business at one point. So as I've told this before, I used to have a different channel. It was also about totally different subjects, and I started that channel in January 2015. Within a year I had 10,000 subscribers. It was amazing, but the thing is, I was also still drinking in between working. So for a couple of years my channel kept growing with tens of thousands of new subscribers, but I also kept drinking, and I became quite literally, temporarily at least, insane because of all of that. And what happened was anxiety started to grow within me because of the drinking and the hangovers, that I reached the point that I actually deleted that channel. Even though looking back on it on reflection, I should have just taken a break, but I got so dramatic due to all the drinking that indeed it ruined something that could have been a really cool business at the time. Of course, right now I'm back and building everything up online for myself in a different and better way, without letting alcohol ruin it. So I learned a lesson at least. So I can only say from personal experience, that if you're still someone that drinks, be honest about it for yourself. See if it actually numbs your mind in such a way that you're less effective. Because sometimes it's very confronting to admit this in a society where everybody likes to drink. But if we're going to be very honest with ourselves, for most of us it's only numbing the mind to a point where we're not as effective as we could be. So imagine what could happen to our lives if we did become as effective as we can be by getting rid of certain toxic, indulgences of certain substances. But it's all up to you. I'm not saying you should. It's just something you could analyze for yourself. And now you know from me personally that yes, that really did actually ruin part of my business. And it was kind of a painful experience at the time. Looking back on it, I realized I was really frustrated. But ultimately what I like about this great adventure concept is again the reminder that it is all about changing our consciousness. That is actually what he said in that last final paragraph. So again, I did that for myself, even though things can go bad because of our own ignorance at times and perhaps dumb decisions that we make as a human being. As long as we understand we can improve something by changing our consciousness, then we still hold the key to actually do something great for ourselves and our lives. That is exactly what I did in 2019 when I deleted my old channel. For 9 months I actually didn't have that channel anymore. But then I rebuilt it as version 2.0, which I currently have running for people to check out, and old subscribers, so-called fans you could say, are still watching it or refining that channel. But it's very interesting because I had to first come to the conclusion for myself, I want to start a channel that also dedicates to helping humanity figure out more about the power of consciousness so that they can improve their lives. So by deleting the old channel, even though it seemed like I brought my business to ruin, it actually also created an opportunity for me to change my mind so dramatically that I actually became like a teacher of some kind through YouTube of this material, which is very interesting because some people that know me actually contacted me back also in that year when I started this new channel. After a few months of looking at my content, they were like, well, something has happened to you. It's almost like you had a spiritual awakening or something. You became a totally different person. You see, that is actually a reflection of what happened here, is that I completely changed my consciousness and my perception on how I'm going to do business in life, and also on how I'm going to be living my life. And of course it has its ups and downs. Perhaps a relapse could happen. That's the issue with being an addict of some kind, is that it always lurks in the background of your soul in a way. But at least I learned my lesson as well, to pay way more attention to what I'm actually doing with my mind to fight this battle. And it's not really a battle, and it actually doesn't feel as a battle to me, but it's just symbolic, like when the darkness comes, we gotta stand up for ourselves and let in the light. That is sort of the battle that we all face. So are you ready to look at your own life as a great adventure? If you do, things can improve dramatically inwardly for us all. It makes life way more fascinating if we still remember that everything is temporary. No matter how successful, rich or great everything is physically, you're still going to have to let go of it eventually. But by understanding the nature of this eternal life that we're part of, everything becomes more and more magnificent in a way. And that is the power behind seeing life as a great adventure. You learn to actually look at your own life as something much more magnificent than perhaps you did before that point. If you're new to this channel, consider subscribing to receive inspirational videos on a regular basis. And with that being said, dear viewer, never forget that we are the dreamers.